It appears we may have a problem of some magnitude here.
Welcome to Vacation Lander. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Brian.
And this is the Pine Tree Picture Show, where we look at movies in Maine and by Mainers. Today we are looking at Frank Darabont's adaptation of The Mist, the third Stephen King adaptation from Darabont after The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile.
And The Mist was Darabont's first choice for a King adaptation, after directing a short, The Woman in the Room, which the rights were purchased from Stephen King for $1.
Yeah, that was the part of the dollar baby deal he had for students and aspiring filmmakers. He would still maintain the rights to a feature, but if you wanted to make a short out of it, you could buy it for $1.
The movie takes place in Bridgeton, Maine.
And before we get any further, a big ol' spoiler warning for this one, because Stephen King himself once said that anyone who spoils the end of this movie should be hung by the neck until dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah, dark. Coming from Stephen King, no surprise, I suppose.
Yeah. It's got the most heart-wrenching ending ever.
Yeah, and very different from how the book ended, because the book ended with hope, and this is Darabont's antithesis to Shawshank, because Shawshank was the same thing, it was all about hope, but this is what happens when all hope is lost, rather than when you can hold on to hope in the hardest conditions.
Stephen King himself liked this ending better than his own book.
Yeah. So I think he said if he had thought of it, he wished he would have ended the book that way. The film follows David Drayton, played by Thomas Jane, as he navigates a Lord of the Giant Flies scenario when a mysterious and mystical mist mystifies all. Mistrust grows into mistreatment. Mistakes are made.
Please stop.
Do you get my point?
Yes.
Or was it mist?
I hate this.
So yeah, they really want you to know that this movie is called The Mist.
What is it, Daddy?
Mist?
Something in the mist! Something in the mist! Something in the mist took John Lee. There's something in the mist that took John Lee.
I don't know what this mist is. This isn't no ordinary mist. Something come out of the mist.
Not in flames, but in mist.
But who knows how far this mist has spread?
Things in the mist.
Nothing in the mist. Try to get clear of this mist. You know about this mist. This mist? It's some kind of what?
Maybe we'll get clear of the mist.
It's fog. It's f***ing fog. Everyone knows that's fog. Nobody would call what this is mist, but everybody only calls it mist, and they do it so much.
Back to the storyline. There's something in the mist.
Yeah, and we're made aware of this from a frantic man running and yelling into a market with a bloody nose. But not before we hear a warning siren, like an air raid or a nuclear strike siren, and everyone goes right to the window.
Safety first.
Yeah, exactly.
It's already established at this point that Arrowhead is missile defense.
Yeah, or at least that's what people, some of the locals think, and this is their reaction to hearing an alarm at the base. Ooh, what's going on? So yeah, that's honestly just the beginning of stupidity with the windows. Like at one point they say, "Oh, we taped them up as best we could."
We got those windows taped up as best we could. It should help.
And it's just like 8 pieces of duct tape just randomly put on the window. Like it's not going to hold anything. This is a store. Did you not have another roll of duct tape? That would have helped a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just nitpicking here, but do you agree with me? Or do you think I'm as crazy as Miss Carmody? Let us know in the comments below, and give the video a like if you're into what we're doing. Subscribe if you'd like to see more, and more importantly, check out vacationlander.com for all your Maine movie merch. We've got this new Food House shirt if you're a fan of The Mist, as well as the Shawshank Exodus shirt, this I Love Dairy design if you're a fan of Stephen King's It. We've also got hats, totes, koozies, and it's the best way to support what we're doing here, celebrating Maine in cinema. So check out vacationlander.com.
So back to the film, nobody knows what's going on, so they decide to stay in the store until further notice.
So yeah, the woman with kids at home, that's apparently her name, according to the credits. She's got to get home to her kids, and not a single person in the store is going to help her.
Nope.
Not even Captain Holt, who's that's Andre Braugher's character. I'm not sure what his actual name is. I'm just going to continue to call him Captain Holt.
Hot damn!
In every role that he's in. But yeah, he's David's neighbor, and yeah, they don't get along. The details aren't really important on that.
Yeah, and then David and the others go out back to fix the generator, and the Shermanator gets gobbled up by a giant land squid.
Yeah.
Then they go tell everybody, but Captain Holt doesn't believe them.
We're not sure what that monster is, by the way. We just see tentacles.
Yeah.
I like to think that it's that gargantuan thing at the end. I forget what it's actually called. I think it's something like that. That massive one. I like to think that it's just like laying down and like just tentacles are licking inside the door.
Oh, man.
Like if you imagine you take like an almost empty jar of peanut butter and duct tape it to the floor and let a Great Dane try and get to the peanut butter. That's what I'm picturing, this giant thing, tentacles.
That sounds terrible.
So yeah, basically this for me, when Holt doesn't believe them, that's kind of when the whole story just starts to fall apart.
But Mrs. Carmody hasn't even really come out of her shell yet.
Yeah, I mean a little bit, but she gets bleh.
Shut up, you miserable buzzard!
There are a few people that side with Holt and don't believe that there's anything in the mist, and they're gonna take off, and they leave like I think it's within like an hour of just right after refusing to help this woman get home to her kids. No one's gonna help, and then like 5 people are like, yeah, I don't believe you, we're gonna be fine. And they might be, who knows? We never find out what happens to them.
Yeah. Well, they all leave and apparently die off screen.
Yeah.
The biker dude that they tie a rope to gets ripped in half.
Ooh, yeah, and that's when Miss Carmody, whatever, she really starts in. And I don't think this aspect of the film really works.
I'm sorry, everybody, but this lady's perspective is a little too Old Testament for my taste.
Like she starts in with the end is nigh crap, but very, very quickly people just start following her. And she's known as a crazy person in town.
Mrs. Carmody is known in town for being unstable.
Oh, shit. What was your first clue?
Yeah, even after they find out that the Arrowhead Project opened a portal to another dimension.
Yeah.
According to the private.
She still claims it's God's will. And the truth about Arrowhead doesn't change that at all.
Yeah. And then the butcher just stabs Private Jessup.
Yeah, well, of course, because he knew about the what was going on. And also how he was a private. How did he know about everything that was going on in that operation? So back to Miss Carmody. There's actually a really interesting theory making its rounds online. Basically, it's saying that she was right all along, because everything she says that will happen, happens. Like even the end. She says a human sacrifice is needed, and she says, we want the boy.
We want the boy!
I get the boy. I get the boy.
Yes, yes.
From out to myself in my class.
Yes.
And
Yes,
which,
yes.
by the way, nobody turns on her at that point. Like everyone's just okay. Yeah, we need the boy now.
Yeah. But sure as hell when David does kill his son, the mist clears.
Yeah, but that doesn't make her right. The whole movie, she's just saying that people will die.
Really?
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's not prophetic. You're just around a bunch of monsters.
The evidence here is flimsy. It's bordering on ludicrous.
Hey, this isn't a courtroom.
So I think most of the story could work with 2 major changes. And not that it doesn't work. I know I'm ragging on this movie pretty hard right now. This seems more like a Cinema Sins episode, but it's still pretty good.
You don't mock me.
Look, this is the writer and director of Shawshank Redemption, so I hold a high bar.
Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane.
So if I'm coming at it hard, yeah, well, it's not, because it's not great. So those changes, I think, would be Captain Holt and the gang, they stay and create like a third party that could also be a really interesting dynamic rather than just Miss Carmody and her followers versus David and his group. If they had a third group, that might change the dynamic and make that more interesting. And also just make more time pass. Let the people get desperate. It's like, I think it's like 24 hours there, and that's it. Like, then they very quickly jump into craziness.
Yeah, it only takes those 24 hours for the people to sacrifice a child. Like,
yeah.
Even if there's a voice calling from the mist, give me the boy, there would at least be a debate.
Like, everyone's just on board immediately with murdering a child.
Yeah.
So David kills his son. And also the three people that he's with, because they'd rather do that than face the monsters. But he's only got 4 bullets, so he's left by himself to be killed by these otherworldly creatures. And then the army strolls through and the mist clears.
Bam. What a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
I think the ending saves this movie.
Yeah, I would agree. It wasn't the effects that saved it, that's for sure, because it's got very dated CGI, even for the time.
Yeah, I wish they did more of the big creatures in the distance through the mist. They clearly just didn't have the budget for the effects.
Yeah, especially with the movie being called The Mist, you'd think you'd just see them in it a little bit more, but don't show them as much, and that way you can get away with having a cheaper budget and worse effects, because you can hide it with the mist. It seems interesting that they didn't go in that direction. Yeah, but they didn't have a huge budget. The budget for it was $18 million, which is, for this type of production, that's a pretty tight budget. Originally, it was with Paramount. They were going to give Darabont $30 million for a budget, but they wanted to change the ending, and he was just not going to have that, so he went over to Dimension. It was shot during the 8-week hiatus of The Shield, and Darabont took the cinematographer, 2 camera operators, and the script supervisor from that production unit to make this film. The editor as well, I believe. And so they shot it like a documentary style, like kind of run and gun, and the actors would just play through the entire scene and just work around. There was always 2 cameras going at any time. They would just work around them. So there was one thing the actors were saying, like, you never know when it's your close-up. Like, they could be across the room and get a close-up on you, so you got to be on with every single shot. So that was kind of interesting. And also the black and white version, there's a director's cut. That's how Darabont wanted to originally release it in black and white, but obviously the studio was like, no, that's a terrible idea. And I think because he wanted it to be like a vintage horror movie, and the effects do look much better in black and white. It's way more forgiving.
I could see that.
But I don't know, the cinematography, like that documentary style cinematography, really clashes with that vintage horror look. So I don't think I didn't think the director's cut was particularly better. Also, not a different cut. It's the exact same cut of the movie.
They're the same picture.
So it made $57 million at the box office and another $31 million in home video sales, which is pretty good, not bad, on the budget, with the budget that it had at least. Not a huge success. A few Easter eggs, some fun things in this film. So what was his name? David Drayton was the artist, the artist name in the film, and it starts out in his studio and it shows all of the posters that he's designed. I believe all of these were designed by Drew Struzan, who's like a well-known movie poster artist, and he did, you name it. I'll show you some of the examples, but like one example is The Thing. He did that, and that's there.
That's a classic.
And yeah, exactly. Talk about iconic posters. And that one also ties into this one because it's all one location, like a bottle episode, and it's all about like paranoia and fear. So that they definitely wanted to kind of focus on that Thing poster as a reference to that.
So, why is it called The Mist? Why not call it The Fog?
Well, thanks for asking that question that I wrote down.
That's not funny. That's not funny at all.
John Carpenter's The Fog came out in 1980, the film. So, and also there was a book called The Fog from James Herbert that was released like 5 years before the novella. So the book was called The Mist, so obviously the adaptation is going to call The Mist. This is a fun note I wrote down. It just says so much dog food. Why does the store have that much dog food?
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely don't even think Petco would have that much dog food. They lined the whole front of the store. It's a huge plate glass window. They lined the whole front of it up with it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the rating. What do we think?
I think the creature designs are great, even though the execution isn't. Yeah, the CGI just wasn't there yet. But the casting is great, and the acting is great.
Yeah, well, working with what they have, I think. 'Cause
Yeah.
the writing, no digs at Stephen King or Frank Darabont. They're clearly both great writers. This one, I just don't, a lot of it didn't quite work for me. So, but the cinematography, the documentary style, it makes everything seem like hyper realistic. So that CGI just really sticks out.
But the ending of this movie is amazing.
Yeah, if it weren't for the ending, I'd say like 2.5 stars. No thanks. But the ending, you never forget. So I think we got to go with 3 stars for this one.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Or I think it's just okay is what I have as
okay.
3 stars.
Yeah.
It's worth a watch if you haven't seen it. We just ruined it.
Yeah.
But if you know someone who hasn't seen it, it's still worth recommending just for the ending, I think.
Yeah. For the ending alone.
Yeah.
But you got to watch the whole movie to get to that point for the payoff.
Yeah.
All right. So how Maine is it?
Yeah, because remember, this is the Pine Tree Picture Show where we're looking at movies in Maine and by Mainers. So does it have a Maine filmmaker?
Do we count Stephen King because he wasn't part of the film production?
Yeah, I know. So yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah.
I think you kind of have to because the whole story, he wrote the story that it's based on. So
yeah.
Normally would I consider an author a filmmaker? No, but his contribution to this product is significant. So yeah. We'll count it 100%.
Yeah. I mean, because of him, it's set in Bridgeton, Maine, which is another pine tree for our scores.
Yep, but it is shot in Louisiana.
Is there a main character? I mean, most of them.
Yeah, almost all of them except for Captain Holt.
Yeah, they're all natives.
Yeah, so there's 3 pine trees.
Yeah.
Does it have a main theme?
Is it a Mainer thing to go batshit crazy within 24 hours?
So we're going to say a total 3 pine trees there. And that's our show, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. Brian, thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
Come back next time. We're looking at Lost on a Mountain in Maine, which just came out last year. Was it shot on a mountain in Maine? We're going to get into that a lot in the next episode. So come back and thanks for joining us this time.